The tattoo wasn't supposed to be visible. James Tucker had carefully chosen his suit to cover the intricate design that wrapped around his forearm, the dates, the names, the silhouette of a fallen soldier. But as he reached across the charity gala's buffet table, his sleeve rode up just enough. That's when General Williams saw it and whispered those 4 words that made Eliza Montgomery, billionaire heiress to the Montgomery media empire, stop mid-conversation. He served with me. If you're drawn into this story of unexpected connections, heartbreak, and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us what truly matters in life. James Tucker adjusted his rented tuxedo uncomfortably, feeling like an imposter among the glittering elite of New York City. At 34, he was a construction foreman by day and a single father by night, neither role preparing him for the opulence of the Veterans Support Foundation's annual fundraiser. He wouldn't be here at all if his daughter's school hadn't won tickets in a community outreach program. "Dad, you're fidgeting again," whispered 8-year-old Lily, looking surprisingly at ease in her blue dress, her dark curls framing a face that was the mirror image of her mother's. "Sorry, Pumpkin," James whispered back, forcing his hands to be still. "Just not used to monkey suits." "You look handsome," Lily assured him with the absolute confidence only children possess. "Like a prince." James smiled, his heart aching with love for this little girl who had become his entire world after her mother's death 4 years ago. "And you look like a princess. The prettiest one here." Lily beamed, then her attention was captured by the elaborate dessert table across the ballroom. "Can I get a cupcake?" "Sure, but stay where I can see you," James cautioned, watching as she carefully navigated through clusters of wealthy donors. He took a deep breath and surveyed the room. The charity supported veterans' mental health programs, something he knew was desperately needed. His own transition to civilian life had been brutal, and without Lily, he wasn't sure he would have made it. The nightmares still came, though less frequently now. The memories of Afghanistan, of the ambush, of holding his best friend Mike as he bled out, those never faded. Across the room, Eliza Montgomery was performing her duties as the Foundation's newest board member with practiced ease. At 32, she had spent her entire life in the public eye as the daughter of media mogul Richard Montgomery. Tonight, in her emerald gown that complemented her auburn hair, she was the picture of sophisticated grace. "The Veteran Support Foundation is doing remarkable work," she was saying to a potential donor. "Last year alone, we helped fund therapy programs for over 5,000 veterans suffering from PTSD. The words flowed easily, rehearsed but sincere. What few people knew was that Eliza's passion for veterans' causes stemmed from personal loss. Her older brother, Alexander, had returned from his military service a changed man and had taken his own life 2 years later. The foundation was her way of ensuring other families didn't experience the same tragedy. "Impressive statistics, Ms. Montgomery," the donor replied. "Your father must be proud of your involvement." Eliza's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Her relationship with her father had been strained since Alexander's death. Richard Montgomery had never understood his son's decision to enlist rather than join the family business, and his inability to comprehend Alexander's struggles after returning home had created a rift that had never healed. "The Foundation's work speaks for itself," she replied diplomatically. "If you'll excuse me, I should greet some of our other guests." She moved through the crowd with practiced ease, exchanging pleasantries and thanking donors. It was exhausting, this constant performance, but she had been trained for it since childhood. The Montgomery name came with expectations, and Eliza had always met them flawlessly: Ivy League education, executive position at Montgomery Media, philanthropic involvement, and a carefully curated public image. What no one saw were the quiet evenings alone in her penthouse apartment, the panic attacks that sometimes left her gasping for breath, the grief for her brother that still felt raw years later. The tabloids called her the Ice Princess for her reserved demeanor at public events, never guessing that it was simply armor against a world that had always watched her too closely. As she approached the buffet table, she noticed a young girl in a blue dress carefully selecting a cupcake, her face a study in serious concentration. The chocolate ones are particularly good, Eliza offered with a genuine smile. Children were easier to talk to than adults. They had no idea who she was and didn't care about her net worth. The girl looked up, returning the smile. I like your dress. It's the color of emeralds. Thank you. I like yours too, that blue matches your eyes perfectly. My dad says I have my mom's eyes, the girl replied, her expression momentarily sad. She's in heaven now. Eliza felt a pang in her chest. I'm sorry to hear that. My brother is in heaven too. The girl nodded with the solemn understanding that children who have experienced loss often possess. I'm Lily. My dad and I are here because my school won tickets. I'm Eliza. It's very nice to meet you, Lily. Lily, don't bother the lady, came a deep voice, and Eliza looked up to see a tall man approaching. His tuxedo was slightly ill-fitting, suggesting it was rented, but he wore it with a military bearing that was unmistakable to someone who had grown up with a brother in service. She's not bothering me at all, Eliza assured him. We were discussing the merits of chocolate cupcakes. James Tucker felt his words die in his throat as he found himself face to face with one of the most beautiful women he'd ever seen. More than that, she was talking to his daughter with genuine warmth, not the condescending tone adults often used with children. Dad, this is Eliza, Lily said, oblivious to her father's momentary speechlessness. She has a brother in heaven too. James's expression softened. I'm sorry for your loss, he said quietly. And I for yours, Eliza replied, struck by the genuine compassion in his eyes, a startling blue that matched his daughter's. I'm James Tucker, he said, extending his hand. As he reached across the table, his sleeve rolled up slightly, revealing the edge of an intricate tattoo on his forearm. Before Eliza could respond, a distinguished older man in a military dress uniform approached. Excuse me, he said, his eyes fixed on James's partially exposed tattoo. I couldn't help but notice. James quickly pulled his sleeve down, but the damage was done. The older man stepped closer, his expression intense. That's the 75th Ranger Regiment insignia, isn't it? 3rd Battalion? James straightened instinctively, his posture shifting to attention. Yes, sir. 2010 to 2015. The older man's eyes widened in recognition. Tucker. Staff Sergeant James Tucker? Yes, sir, General Williams. The general's face transformed with emotion. He placed a hand on James's shoulder and turned to Eliza, his voice dropping to a whisper that nonetheless carried clearly to her ears. He served with me. One of the finest soldiers I ever commanded. Eliza froze, her eyes drawn to James's arm where the tattoo lay hidden beneath his sleeve. There was something in the general's tone, respect, certainly, but also a shared knowledge of something profound. More than that, the general continued, his voice thick with emotion. He saved my life in Kandahar. Carried me 3 miles to extraction after our convoy was hit. James looked uncomfortable with the praise. Just doing my job, sir. Your job, the general repeated with a short laugh. Your job was to follow orders to fall back. Instead, you ran into enemy fire to pull me and 2 others out of that burning Humvee. Lily was watching this exchange with wide eyes, clearly seeing a side of her father she hadn't known before. Eliza found herself unable to look away from James's face, the modest discomfort, the quiet dignity, the flash of remembered pain in his eyes. This was no socialite pretending to care about veterans for the photo opportunity. This was someone who had lived it. Dad never talks about when he was a soldier, Lily said quietly. The general knelt down to Lily's level, his knees cracking slightly. Your dad is a hero, young lady. The real kind. James cleared his throat, clearly wanting to change the subject. General, it's good to see you, sir. How's the shoulder? Good as new, thanks to you, the general replied, standing again. And what about you? What are you doing these days? Construction management, James answered. Building things instead of. He glanced at Lily and didn't finish the sentence. Eliza watched this interaction with growing interest. The James Tucker before her was nothing like the wealthy businessmen who typically attended these events, men who donated large sums to burnish their public image while treating the staff with condescension. There was something refreshingly genuine about him, from his slightly too tight rental tuxedo to the protective way he kept a hand on his daughter's shoulder. Ms. Montgomery is one of our foundation's most dedicated board members, General Williams said, bringing Eliza back into the conversation. Her brother served as well. James's eyes met Eliza's with new understanding. Which branch? Marines. 2 tours in Iraq, she replied, feeling the familiar tightness in her throat whenever she spoke of Alexander. He came home, she continued after a moment, but not really. He struggled for 2 years before he. She stopped, conscious of Lily listening. James nodded, understanding what she couldn't say. I'm sorry, he said simply, and Eliza knew he truly meant it. An awkward silence fell, broken by Lily. Dad, can I go see the ice sculpture? Please. James hesitated, then nodded. Stay where I can see you. As Lily carefully made her way to the elaborate ice carving of an eagle, James turned back to Eliza and the general. I should probably, he began, but the general interrupted. Tucker, I'd like you to meet some people. Board members who need to hear firsthand about the importance of our PTSD programs. James looked uncomfortable. Sir, I'm not really good at public speaking. Not asking you to give a speech, son. Just to be yourself. Your story matters. Eliza found herself nodding in agreement. Personal testimonies help donors understand the real impact of our work. James hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. If you think it would help. As the general led them toward a group of wealthy donors, Eliza found herself studying James more closely. There was a quiet strength about him, a resilience that spoke of someone who had faced the worst and survived. It was refreshingly different from the calculated charm of the men in her social circle. What she couldn't know was that James was equally intrigued by her. Behind her polished exterior, he had glimpsed genuine compassion when she spoke to Lily, real pain when she mentioned her brother. She wasn't what he had expected from a billionaire heiress whose face occasionally graced the society pages he skimmed while waiting in grocery store checkout lines. As the evening progressed, James found himself drawn into conversations with foundation donors, speaking honestly about his experiences and the challenges of reintegration. To his surprise, people listened. His straightforward accounts of night terrors, of jumping at loud noises, of the guilt of surviving when others hadn't, these resonated in a way that statistics and formal presentations couldn't. Eliza watched from nearby, impressed by his natural eloquence. He wasn't polished, but his authenticity was powerful. She noticed how he kept Lily in his sightline at all times, how his face softened whenever his daughter approached to check in with him. Later, as the event was winding down, Eliza found James and Lily near the coat check. Mr. Tucker, she called, approaching them. I wanted to thank you for sharing your experiences tonight. You made quite an impression on several of our major donors. James looked embarrassed. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the most powerful thing, she replied. Then, hesitating slightly, she added, I was wondering if you might be interested in becoming more involved with the foundation. We're developing a mentorship program for veterans transitioning to civilian life, and someone with your experience would be invaluable. James blinked in surprise. I'm not sure what I could offer. You survived, Eliza said simply. You built a life after service. That's exactly what many struggling veterans need to see as possible. Lily tugged on her father's hand. Dad helps people at work too. He gives jobs to Mr. Ray and Mr. Dion, and they were soldiers like him. James smiled down at his daughter. That's different, Pumpkin. Is it? Eliza asked. It sounds like you're already mentoring in your own way. James considered this. I'd need to think about it. My schedule with Lily and work is pretty tight. Of course, Eliza handed him her business card. Take your time. But I hope you'll consider it. As their fingers brushed during the exchange, Eliza felt an unexpected jolt of awareness. Their eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between them, recognition, perhaps, of kindred spirits despite their vastly different lives. Thank you, Ms. Montgomery, James said, tucking the card into his pocket. Eliza, please. Then thank you, Eliza, he amended with a small smile that transformed his serious face. And it's James. As they parted ways that evening, neither could have predicted how their lives would soon become intertwined, or how the tattoo that had first caught General Williams's attention would come to symbolize a shared journey of healing, understanding, and eventually, love. The following Tuesday found James at his construction site, reviewing blueprints with his foreman while trying to ignore the business card burning a hole in his wallet. He had thought about Eliza Montgomery more than he cared to admit over the past few days, her genuine interest in veterans' issues, her kindness to Lily, the glimpses of vulnerability beneath her polished exterior. Earth to Tucker, said Ray Martinez, his assistant foreman and fellow veteran. You with us, boss? James blinked, refocusing on the blueprints. Sorry. What were you saying about the foundation issues? Ray gave him a knowing look. Man, I've known you since Ranger School. You only get that 1,000-yard stare when something's eating at you. What's up? James hesitated, then pulled out Eliza's card. I met someone at that charity event. She wants me to get involved with a veterans mentoring program. Ray whistled as he read the embossed card. Montgomery Media? That's big time, brother. It's not about that, James said quickly. The foundation does good work. Her brother was a Marine who took his own life after coming home. Ray's expression sobered. Too many of those stories. Yeah. James thought of Mike, of the tattoo on his arm commemorating his fallen friend. Too many. So what's stopping you? You're great with the guys we've hired from the VA program. James ran a hand through his hair. Time, for one thing. Between this job and Lily. And maybe you're a little intimidated by Ms. Fancy business card? Ray suggested with a knowing smirk. It's not that, James protested, though perhaps too quickly. Our worlds are just different. Ray clapped him on the shoulder. Call her, man. What's the worst that could happen? Across town, Eliza sat in her corner office at Montgomery Media headquarters, ostensibly reviewing quarterly projections but actually thinking about James Tucker. There had been something compelling about him, his obvious devotion to his daughter, his reluctance to speak about his own heroism, the quiet dignity with which he carried himself. Her assistant's voice came through the intercom. Your father is here to see you, Ms. Montgomery. Eliza straightened, quickly closing the Veteran Support Foundation file on her desk. Send him in. Richard Montgomery entered with the confidence of a man who had built a media empire from the ground up. At 68, he remained imposing, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, with the sharp eyes of a predator. Eliza, he said by way of greeting, settling into the chair across from her desk without waiting for an invitation. Father, she replied coolly. This is unexpected. I've been reviewing the quarterly numbers for your division, he said, getting straight to business. Your digital expansion strategy is working well. It was as close to praise as he ever came. Thank you. However, he continued, I'm concerned about the amount of time you're devoting to that veterans charity. The Henderson acquisition needs your full attention. Eliza felt a familiar tension headache beginning to form. The foundation work doesn't interfere with my responsibilities here. It's a distraction, Richard countered. And it keeps you dwelling in the past. The unspoken.